Welcome to another episode of Driving to the Res with your favorite hosts. Who?
Larry.
And Inelia.
Come on, honey. Give it the program here.
Oh my gosh.
You forgot your lines?
No, I was waiting for you.
Oh, you've been doing a lot of waiting for me today.
Yes.
How come?
Because I don't know. I just wait and wait for you to be ready.
Why do I take a long time to get ready?
I guess you need more time to get ready than I do.
Okay.
Why do you think you take time to get ready?
Because I want to be ready, not just go. I want to make sure I'm ready.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just want to go, but other times I want to be ready.
Are you ready?
I feel like I've rushed to get ready.
Oh. Maybe 3 hours next time?
I don't think it'll take 3 hours to get ready. It depends on what we talk about. I just like to be prepared so that I know when my mouth is moving.
Yes, you're making sense.
That facts are coming out.
Okay.
Not speculations, unless they're identified as speculations.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels to me relevant and important, that I've prepared myself emotionally, physically, mentally, food, sleep, water, all the things so that I don't enter into all of this, our podcasting triggered,
Oh yeah, triggered is not good.
And I feel like I've been manipulated into being triggerable lately.
Ooh. I'd like to hear more about that, because I think a lot of people are feeling that. How to deal with manipulation and pressure, right?
How to handle being manipulated, because it's almost like you feel like you've got to be in the victim mentality to be manipulated. I mean, how can you manipulate someone else without their agreement?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've been living on this planet some of us for a very, very, very long time, and we have a lot of momentum in a direction. It's hard to alter your direction. Direction momentum. Meaning, when I hear invitations to righteousness, I get a big ball in the center of my chest, and it's ready
to go.
I'm talking about ready.
Yeah.
And it's with a great deal of effort. It is with a great deal of effort that I put it into check, and the process to put it into check that I use so far, which has mostly worked, is to recognize that feeling as what that is. That's my righteous energy rising.
Ah.
And righteous response, yeah, it's not a high frequency response, but it's a huge ball. And I imagine other people probably have similar feeling balls of energy that maybe they're a little different. Maybe it's not.
Maybe they're going to the
defined
warrior.
As righteous.
Right. Maybe they're going to the warrior, defending people.
Maybe that's what it is too, is warrior and defending. I don't know. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, is a big, giant, red ball with flaming yellow streaks off of it. It's as big as, I would say, it starts as big as, Jupiter, condensed down into a tiny little dot, and then it starts to get bigger, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can sense or see or feel or follow the energy line of what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes, definitely, yes. Mm-hmm.
So, there are certain triggers to that righteousness that I encounter sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
I've seen those.
I normally, almost always,
peaceful and
rarely react to the righteous trigger. Mm-hmm. But I can see that it's there.
Yeah. And
it isn't actually getting smaller.
No.
It's as big and powerful and strong a feeling now. I mean, it's probably bigger.
Yeah, because of all that's going on.
But I've also practiced more and more processes to try to, but
Have you welcomed it?
Recognizing. Oh yes, I recognized it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Recognized it and welcomed it.
And welcomed it.
Allowed it to exist.
Let's see. That's basic processing 101, honey.
Yes.
So
it's amazing how many times I've asked people that.
have not responded to this energy with the welcoming and allowing it to grow. I've recognized it and held it in check.
Right.
That's what I've been doing.
Right. We're suppressing it, which makes it stronger.
Well, my righteousness will say I'm just holding it in check. I'm keeping it in the back burner in case I need it.
There you go. So you're not ready to release it. It's part of the process, right? Mm-hmm. You allow it to exist, you allow it to grow, you allow it to express, and then you ask yourself, am I ready to release this? You ask the energy bundle that you've created, are you ready to be released? And if you get a no, then you visit again tomorrow, right?
So we've been doing a lot of tomorrow.
Yeah, I think so.
I have, yes.
Yeah. Looks that way. Sounds that way.
So this, for me, this is that. That's my experience. And there's things that trigger my righteous response. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed I've spent more time dealing with rationalizing the triggers instead of processing the righteousness.
Right.
And dealing with the triggers is a little bit like a never-ending process because there's a never-ending list of possibilities, right?
Yes, definitely, especially nowadays.
Right.
Yeah.
So you would recommend that I process the energy bundle of righteousness?
Yeah.
And what about,
One of the things is to become aware that people and organizations and stuff are actively looking for your buttons to push to make you go into reaction and getting triggered. Acknowledging that that's true and that they're doing that to be able to control your emotions rather than you control your emotions, or you decide what emotions you're going to have rather than you decide what emotions I'm going to have. It's an act of manipulation and control, right? So once you also see that part, a lot of that manipulation will lose its power. A lot of the items that presently trigger you will no longer trigger you. They will kind of poof, go away because you become conscious and aware of what's happening. Mm-hmm. You're gonna need a lot of street smarts right now too.
Yeah.
So for example, if you know that certain type of loud music triggers you and gets you in a way that makes you sad or hurts your ears or, makes you feel unwell because of the frequencies, then you avoid houses that play that music, right?
In other words, avoid the triggers if you can.
Yeah.
That's street smart.
You're street smart, right? If you have to go into one of those locations for something vital, right, and you get yourself into that environment, you can take measures. You can get yourself earplugs, right, and other things that will support you while you're in that environment, because you have to be there at that moment. That supports your not getting injured or triggered or negatively affected by those items. That's part of being street smart as well. Right? Because sometimes there are situations on the planet right now you cannot avoid. So you make sure that you support yourself in those environments. You support your physical body, your emotional body, your mind, right? Your energy body, you support them so that they don't get injured in those locations.
That makes sense. That's interesting too. That's a part of the Gaia contract that the grooms and brides or the brooms, as we call them, of Gaia. We designed this contract with participation with Gaia to try to outline high frequency response.
Yeah.
In situation, what kind of things are engageable, what responses are engageable, what, basically spell it out.
Yeah.
So that it's understandable how to interact. Because it's easy to say these things, but when you actually get down to nuts and bolts of it, well, what do you do? What is allowable? What's not allowable? What is high frequency? What's not? I mean, it's like we're fishing in water, and what's the water?
Right. So strong boundaries, it's high frequency. One of the comments that today we placed a photograph in the Telegram channel. Thank you, Inelia. And it said that allow the other person to exist without judgment from our part, right? And this is something that can be misinterpreted, and it was misinterpreted very badly by some people that mentioned, what about criminals? What about if I'm in danger? And things like that. Now, there's a huge difference between discernment, street smart, and judgment. There's a huge difference between those. At the moment on the planet, you have to be discerning. You have to be street smart. So if it's a criminal, call the police, right? Avoid becoming a victim. Process all that stuff, of victim aggressor stuff. If you're in danger, avoid that danger. Get yourself. You're an adult. You have to be capable of protecting yourself, right? As an adult, you can't expect others to do that for you. You use discernment, but it's not judgment. Judgment is something completely different.
Judgment gets you entangled in an energetic line with them, right?
Yes.
You basically create an agreement.
Yes.
Through your judgment.
Yeah.
That they are a part and you are another part.
Yes.
Judgment brings that agreement to be.
Yeah.
So if you aren't in judgment, it's like, yes, that's a being doing a XYZ, reprehensible blah blahs. I'm not going to let him do that to me. Mm-hmm. He's playing his role. I'm not part of that role. Maybe other people are.
Yeah.
It's like less righteousness involved, I suppose.
Yeah. And there's a lot of individuals who are talking about people who are jabbed at low frequency, for example, and they have to be avoided and all these type of things. Gotta
say.
In a judgy type of way,
in a
right?
judgy way?
Right.
They like country music instead of rock and roll, or vice versa.
Discernment-wise, they're not bad people. They're not bad people just because they were jabbed.
Judgment-wise, they're not bad people.
Discernment way, they're not.
Discernment way?
Yeah. Judgment, you might call them bad and evil and all these
judge
things.
Them as
stupid. Exactly.
Or
pathetic,
or
yeah. Slaves
or
sheeple,
or
right?
Kool-Aids,
and you're basically, when you judge them like that, you're demonizing them.
Yeah,
okay?
demonizing. Yeah.
So there's nothing you can do, right? Like you just attack them every time you're wrong. You call them wrong. You say you call them names. You call them wrong. You try to tell them how stupid they are and all these type of things. Well, that's judgment. And also righteousness, which is part of judgment. When you take that away and become discerning, you know that they're in the middle of an experiment, genetic or whatever's, and if you get sick around them, you avoid them because it's going to harm you to be around them, right?
That's just street smart.
That's street smart and discernment.
You've used several words now in the same places.
So you love them, for example, but you've been discerning.
You may not love them.
Well, some of them you might.
Walking around Walmart and you don't love them at all.
No, that's
but
right.
they're vexed and
exactly.
you know it.
Yeah.
And they got a cloud of nastiness.
Yes, they do.
Growing off of them.
Yeah.
It makes you get a sore throat.
My lungs hurt, actually.
And a headache.
Yeah. So you avoid them, right?
Well,
because you know that they are a danger to you.
If I go there, because they're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it does not that I avoid them, but I'm aware of the circumstance I've placed myself in.
Exactly.
And I take mitigating measures when I'm done. Exactly. I spray myself with some colloidal. I've heard that pine needle tea, white pine tea, or star anise tea, or maybe even dandelion root powder. Those are all things that help
support your body.
Support your body after exposure to that.
So there's a different mindset. You're not going to kick them away if they come near you at the store and call them stupid and pathetic and a killer, right?
No, I wouldn't do that. I don't have judgy righteousness about them there. I mean, I might ridicule them a little bit.
Okay.
But No, probably. Well, if they're wearing a mask too and a shield, I might have that
There
feeling,
you go.
right?
Exactly.
Have the feeling of ridicule. It's like, really? You're going to go that far? But at the same time...
That's the judgment and that's the righteousness.
Yeah, at least it's little.
Right. But it can grow.
Yeah, it can
get out of hand.
It can get out of hand, yeah. Especially when the imposition or the manipulation
know those micro...
demand that I put on a mask and a shield and a double
so
thing.
the micro...
That's the line.
Communication.
Micro communication.
Yeah.
They get to tell.
They do, yeah.
There's like, oh, here's what I can have a rumble with.
Yeah. So when I see somebody who's obviously extremely
rumble.
Mask-oriented, with the shields and mask and everything and gloves, I smile really big at them. Says, hi, how are you doing? Do you have blah, 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 right? And there's none of that judgment energy there. Because they're just, to me, it's like, they're not any different.
They're no different
than they were
99% of the people, or the same as 2 years ago.
Yeah, they're the same.
They're the same. It's just that now
and I learned
all of
how
us
to
can see it.
Now I've learned how to communicate.
The only difference is that we all can see it instead of just
a few people. Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense, huh?
Yeah.
My God, what a wonderful world you lived in.
All my life, baby.
Jesus.
So you minimize those situations and those, what does it mean? It's like if somebody says something that makes me mad. For a second?
Because what you said could be taken easily out of context.
Okay.
I'm not going to go up to those people and give them a big hug and say hi and try
to...
Because I feel like they're going to interpret me doing that as like...
That's not socially
acceptable. Because
I'm
clearly not masked, clearly not playing their game, that I'm going to be imposing me on them just like they're... If they came at me, imposing themselves on me. They're like imposing themselves. What's that called? You have a word that you use to describe what happens when you put your right on another person. Oh, that's called righteousness.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so it feels like I would be imposing my righteousness on them if I try to engage with them. I'd just leave them be.
Exactly, yeah. And a lot of this is about letting people be, okay? It doesn't mean you have to go out of your way to make them feel comfortable, loved, and all these other things. So you wouldn't do that 3 years ago, right? When you saw some random person, you wouldn't. And you wouldn't today. But you wouldn't treat them differently either, right? So that's when...
Well, I do treat them different as I give them more space than I give a regular person. The person that isn't wearing a mask in line with me, I would smile and engage with hello, hi, or maybe, be open to an engagement. And someone who's double masked and shielded, it appears to be scared of me, but maybe they're scared of, maybe they're actually scared of getting in trouble, or they're scared of the rules being broken, or who knows, and they don't really not scared of me. They're just trying to show that they're very, very good followers or compliers. And so I will give them the chance to initiate contact because I don't want to impose me on them. Mm-hmm. Is that okay?
Yeah, totally. Right? So it's respectful, right? You're being compassionate and respectful.
Yeah, there's an argument that follows from that, though.
What?
By allowing that kind of behavior to continue, it makes this process last longer.
Why would it last longer?
Because the way that herds work, if the herd's all doing it, then everybody thinks everybody's doing it.
But the herd has to be herded, right? That's their nature.
Well, it's the herd that herds the herd.
Exactly. It's their nature. They're going to do it whether you're, comply or don't comply. It doesn't really matter. But
they're behaving in the herd mentality. If the herd isn't wearing no mask, then they're like, maybe I should take that off. I watched it with my daughter.
Yeah.
Because we went to Stanford. Every single freshman wore a mask everywhere at all times. Mm-hmm. And 95+% of the upperclassmen, freshmen, I guess what's that, juniors and sophomores and seniors, and the graduate students, only a very small percentage of them were walking around with masks on. And so I told my daughter, I said, look, you kind of identify yourself as a freshman if you wear that everywhere. Because look, the upperclassmen are not doing that. It's like you should probably not so much. Nothing else has worked, trust me. Now I see pictures of her on her Instagram, no mask. But OMG, I was like pulling teeth to get her to pull it down long enough to take a picture on the campus when I was there with her. I mean, I tried super duper hard. Like, can you just for a picture, just for half a second? She's like looking around like, but what if somebody sees me kind of thing, you know? But that's different now, but she's mapped to a different herd, I suppose.
Exactly. It doesn't make any difference.
Well,
it doesn't make any difference.
That's kind of the point, though.
No, why is it a point? I can't understand the point. Can you explain it in a different way?
The point was is allowing people to get away with behavior that's old paradigm. When you're interested in new paradigm, seems like it makes the old paradigm keep going longer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying.
So if I were to make that person comfortable, which would be eggshells walking, I would be putting a mask on as well and a shield, even though I don't want one and I don't need one. I don't think I think it's absurd. Just the mere thing that I'm standing there without one is a demonstration of something. And it's opposed to their belief system and their thought.
Right.
So I've already started to oppose them. And by giving them some space, I'm just a moderate level away from instigating something with them. Because I am actually not following their rules or the rules they think that we all have to follow, you know? So it's only like, I feel it's considerate, but they probably think I'm the biggest jerk, some of them.
Does it matter what they think about you?
Does it matter what they think about me? No, it doesn't matter. What I was asking, though, is specifically, do you think going along with some of these things prolongs the misery? I mean, can we get it over faster by being ourselves, or do we get the process over faster by going along with whatever?
I don't think you can affect the process.
The process is going to take however long it's going to take?
Yes. The process is going to take as long as it's going to take. And you can't affect it. If you do, you can make a person happy by not wearing a mask because they don't wear them. And you go, oh, yeah. Oh, nowadays, like they tried the non-maskers. If you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. So everybody who doesn't wear a mask is vaccinated. So they're confusing everything. It's a lot of confusion, right?
Confusion is one of the tactics, I'm sure.
Exactly. And it doesn't really matter. So my advice would be true to yourself and be conscious and aware that be kind to others, right? Do things out of kindness, not out of righteousness. So if a person says, oh, don't come close to me, right? You go, oh, I'm sorry. You just walk away, right?
Mm-hmm. What about if you're on an airplane, sit next to one and they're
upset? I wouldn't go near an airplane. Just don't go there. Don't do that.
There's some places you
just don't do that. Just don't go there.
What if you have to?
No, you don't have to.
You do have
Planes
to.
Planes didn't exist, so no, you don't have to.
You have to in some situations.
Like what?
You got to go from, say, Germany to...
Why?
Moving to
Why would you move?
To a better environment that doesn't have the restrictions.
So you have to get on an airplane to move? You can't
there.
get on a bus?
Can't get on a bus because you got to cross water. You can't get on
a
boat
car?
because the boat doesn't go there. Can't get on a car because the car can't drive across the water.
Okay. Well, so if your higher self decision is to move to a different place and the only place to get there is getting on an airplane, then for those 10, 20 hours, I would comply as much as possible except for not get vaccinated. Or,
Right, there's
everything
a limit.
else.
There's a line you will not cross.
Exactly. There's a line I will not cross. Right. And then I would, if I have to get vaccinated to get there, it's like, don't bother.
That's like the answer is, well, your higher self decision probably isn't correct.
Right.
Or you need to revisit this and understand what options are open to get there other than
exactly
a commercial airplane.
Right. So, from my own personal perspective, I realized several years ago.
I remember this. God, I was so mad.
Can you say what it was?
We weren't going traveling around Europe anymore. We weren't going to be going anywhere for after our trip to Europe, that was the last time we were going
Yes.
to Europe. And I was like, but I just went and I just loved every bit of it. How could we possibly not get to go again?
Now you know why.
Yeah, now I know why, but I also know another thing.
What?
We're taking a cruise ship. A ship.
Yes. So
Well,
I said I wasn't going to
even the
fly.
Yeah, you did. I'm not
Right?
going to fly. I
I'm
remember
not going to
that.
fly again. So deal with it. I didn't say I wasn't going to take a ship, and I didn't say I wasn't going back to Europe.
Or a
I
catamaran.
said
Remember I was going to buy a catamaran?
I said I
take a
wasn't going to
sailboat?
fly. And one of the reasons was that I could see I've been flying since I was 12 years old. Since 1978, I started flying. I flew from Chile to the UK at 12 by myself. And I hadn't stopped because my family and friends and whatever all lived in different countries. So I've been flying ever since. I've taken thousands and thousands of flights in my life. And I pretty much enjoyed it. But at some point, the whole dynamic started changing.
Yeah.
The dynamic of how to get on a plane, what you have to do, and it became a control system. Extremely controlled, and you have to comply in order to get on that plane. And there were certain things that I would comply for just to get on the plane so I could get to the other side. But then it became tighter and tighter and tighter and more invasive, right? So when those X-ray machines or whatever that people go into came online, I said, no, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I remember. And then you kind of manifested things like clear and quick and all those other stuff. So it started like bypassing all those things.
Yes,
that was
bypassing
quite
a lot
clever.
of the things, right?
So it's still possible to travel, and you could bypass. You had to do a little bit of research and paperwork type thing.
Pay for it.
Then pay a little bit, and then you managed to skirt a lot of those things.
I did, yeah.
Good job of it.
So, and then it got worse and worse.
Yeah.
Now it's unbelievably worse, right? But now, one of the reasons, I'll tell you a funny story. Mm-hmm. I pretty much don't like being around other people that I don't know. And I don't like the thought that I'm breathing in the breath they breathed out, or has always disgusted me in my life.
Yeah.
Because breath has frequencies and energies, and most of the people on the planet have disgusting frequencies and energies coming out of them. And I translated that into being a germaphobe and, being, not liking viruses.
You're right.
Finding them disgusting. And all the stuff that comes out of people. Also, skin particles going to the air all the time, and I didn't want to breathe other people's skin particles. Okay? And so, for me, it was actually very uncomfortable to fly in that sense. When the whole COVID thing came online, one of the things I started doing was to clean and disinfect aeroplanes and put in new filter systems so that the air that was being recycled was pure. And sitting people not crunched up, but 6 feet from each other. And I thought that was marvelous. Yep. I thought that was fabulous.
Remember, you could use the salt and the pepper and the ketchup bottles.
I wouldn't, when I go to
restaurants. You
restaurants.
touch them, but now it was alright because they gave you a brand new ketchup every time.
It's there, yeah.
I even kind of didn't like the ketchup bottle sometimes. Like, geez,
gross.
This thing's a bit dirty.
In restaurants, yeah.
Some of them.
So, in a way, for me, it would have been easier now to travel than ever before. For me, personally. Right. Because stay away from people.
All of those things were like, hey, this is good. You gotta stay away from me. You have to put a mask on and keep your breath off of me.
Exactly.
Don't touch me. Don't come close to me.
Exactly.
Heaven.
Yeah.
Except
that it's not healthy.
Now it's abhorrent.
Yeah. And it's the compliance part, and then you have to get vaccinations or tested and all these things. Compliance. And the security things are much, much tighter and everything else. So, yeah, it's just
so weird.
It was the energy and the fear that I see in people's eyes. Even if I wear a mask, the fear in people's eyes is so intense, and the energy around them is so massively nasty that I would prefer not to be in those group situations.
Right. It's almost like a wave of low frequency judgment oozing out of everyone.
Fear and...
Well, judgment, fear, etc.
Am I going to catch something, right? Even if you wear a mask, am I going to catch something from you? If you wear a mask, like,
some of them are like fear, and some are like mad at you because you're wearing a mask, and they blame you for making it continue because your compliance is making it last longer.
Exactly.
And some of them are like, you don't need to wear that, what are you, dumb?
Right.
And it's just like everyone has an opinion about the thing.
You
know what I mean?
Yeah,
they're not like...
It's not like...
They're not like outside of judgment about it. They have a strongly held opinion of one side or the other about the thing.
Yeah.
And everyone is projecting it on each other, right?
Yeah. That's
what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
So the other day we went to see a possible home for us that we can build or put and buy a prefab on our land at the res. Yeah. And we went into the store and I saw a woman walking by. You could see she was like one of the owners or something, highly masked. And, the big eyes when we walked in, or three of us without masks. And I gave her a big smile and says, hi. And she says, oh, hi, somebody will come over and help you very soon. And she left, right? Yeah. And this other lady came up, and as she was walking up to us, she was putting on her mask, right?
Right.
And she looked at us and she kind of put a chin diaper on.
Yeah, she did the chin masking.
Yeah, she chin masked, and then she kind of, every now and then, as you could see, the other lady would walk by, she'd pull it up, and then the other lady would walk away and she'd put it down. And then we went outside, and most of that time she didn't even bother wearing it.
She just gave up on that.
She gave up on that. But you could see the other lady walking around outside the grounds, and she was still masked outside. So it was like the dynamic was very interesting, right? The lady that was with us came really close to me to show me one of the price sheets and everything. And she breathed on me, and I could feel the nasty stuff. My lungs started hurting. I could tell that she was vaccinated.
She was a vaxxer, even though she was a non-masker.
Exactly.
It's a combination. That's crazy.
So like, dang it. Now I've got to take all those supplements and things when I get back to the car. I hope I don't get unwell, because my lungs are getting fixed with the AquaCure, the hydrogen water. But it's a slow process, right? So
it's 40 years of damage or failure.
Yeah, it's a lot of damage. I mean, I got pneumonia and I lost one of my half a lung, more than half a lung when I was 7. And I had asthma and all the vaccine damage that I had. I mean, I was highly vaccinated growing up. And every time it would get worse, my breathing would get worse and heavier and harder to do. And now it's reversing. I could see I haven't breathed so well since before I was 7, I could take a deep breath and it's amazing. But yeah, it's still not as strong as other people. So, it's like, because we don't have much exposure, we don't have what the bodies are doing, So
we haven't built up a resistance.
Yeah, to that poison, to whatever it is exuding, like skin cells or whatever, and breath
The thing
particles.
with building up resistance that's important to recognize, though, is you do still need to detox that.
You do, yes.
Just because it's built up and you're not having a reaction doesn't mean it's not there.
Exactly, right. Yeah.
It just means that your body is becoming accustomed to having to live with it.
Right.
So maybe take more...
So that sense of avoiding individuals who are low frequency or nowadays might be shedding on people. I know that nothing's been scientifically proven about anything.
Oh, it's proven. Totally factually.
They have?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely proven without any question in the company's own documents expressing this happens. Absolutely it happens. No question about it.
Yeah. Okay, good. So if those documents are there, then fair enough, right? So, very personally speaking, I support my physical body. That's my number one. And also the people around me, right? I prefer that nobody that is vax pets my PB, our little dog, because she's delicate. And if they do, if we come close to her or pet her, I like to spray her now, and she, funnily enough, when she was really close to me, I had her in my arms, and PB started coughing.
Oh.
It's like, oh shoot, so move away. So, I mean, it might have been a coincidence, but synchronicities,
Message, information,
Yeah,
data.
Was it actually an effect? I don't know. I don't have enough data for that, right? I would have to get close to lots of vax people to see if PB coughs, and I wouldn't put her through that, right?
Right.
So I wouldn't risk it.
Well,
so it's like manipulation, though, going back to manipulation,
right.
The way that individuals behave around you does affect us, and that effect can be at a subconscious level a type of manipulation, right? So how do we deal with that? Or pressures, pressures from work, pressures from legal teams, and who has the authority at the end of the day?
Right.
Most people comply or break down through that
Most
manipulation.
people have a breakdown point.
Yeah.
It's like the carrot and the stick is basically all it is in a sense. How big of a carrot you got and how big of a stick you got. How much money is it going to take? Or how much threat is it going to take?
Exactly.
Or how much of a combination of those
at the
two.
race, people get $1,000 if they turn up for work.
Yeah, that's just, they have this giant stick. They pull out a stick and they said, you know what? If you don't get vaccinated, then you're going to get fired from your job if you work here at the tribe. Mm-hmm. And you have until this day to do it. And then
didn't happen.
They had a big vote on it
to
say, you can't make that rule. That rule violates my rights.
But not enough people turned up for...
No, enough people turned up.
To vote?
Yeah, and they voted to overturn it. Uh-huh. And then the government, the tribal government, they said, well, we're going to say that you need to have a supermajority, not just a majority. And so we don't count this vote as valid.
Right.
And instead, here's $1,000 if you get a shot. Show up with a card, you can get $1,000.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's obvious carrot stick, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get more obvious, but it's still being manipulation. You're still getting fired, and you still can get $1,000.
Right.
So, if you do what they say, you keep your job and you get $1,000. If you don't do what they say, you get fired, and you don't get unemployment, and you don't get $1,000, and XYZ, you starve, and you get kicked out of your house, and all the things, that your mind makes up.
Yeah.
So how is a person supposed to respond to that? It's not like working there is working to kill people or something. It's just a regular old job, maybe serving and helping the other members of the tribe.
Yeah.
But you can't continue to do that because of that it's arbitrary, it's illegal, it's against the rules, against the vote, against every other. It's like it's against their own writing.
Yeah.
They're going to make you do it anyway, even though it is against everything that they wrote down. I did encounter that same thing, and I thought it was kind of interesting when I had worked and founded with other people a fishing co-op. Mm-hmm. At the end of it, the huge document that we spent 6 or 8 months with the tribe and don't even know how many tens of thousands of dollars with attorneys to generate a document that would govern our co-op and the tribe and our relationship together and our responsibilities and outline what we do in all cases didn't matter because they didn't read it. And the other side, the co-op members, they didn't read it either. They just went off of whatever they felt. And when you pointed out what is written and what you agreed to ahead of time, didn't matter. Because A, B, or C. A, they didn't care. B, they didn't understand. Or C, they were in righteous trigger and they're protecting their blah blahs from blah blahs. They're triggered.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter what was written, what you said. They couldn't hear it, couldn't see it. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing right now with the work. If you work at the tribe and you don't get a shot, you don't get $1,000 and you get fired. And it doesn't matter what you do about it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It's still what's going to happen. Mm. The consequence of fighting it and making a big stink is not only will you get fired,
you get banned.
You're going to get kicked out of your house,
yes,
disenrolled from the tribe, and kicked off the res.
Yes. Can't go
so
there
the stick gets bigger.
Yes. It gets bigger and bigger.
And there's no recourse. In other words, there's no higher authority to appeal the judgment to.
Right.
So how do you respond to that kind of manipulation? Mm-hmm. This is a question. You can feel my righteous ball of fire drawing.
Yes.
So,
do you work for the tribe, honey?
No.
Right. That's your answer.
Well, that's me.
Exactly.
I'm talking about other people. And what I'm talking about is how they feel and how their manipulations are. And these are people who are picking. Well, here's the other thing that's important to note. You ready? Mm-hmm. I've found that it's true that people believe if you take the vaccination, that means you've picked the light-dark paradigm.
Yeah.
And for 99.999% that's true. Mm-hmm. There's probably a few that picked it somehow through some happenstance. They have actually not chosen that, even though they got the shot. They didn't choose that reality back in 2011, and they...
Are you sure about that?
Like
I haven't found
a handful,
yet.
like 5 people?
I don't think so.
Out of 100 million?
No.
I'm just allowing it to exist as a possibility.
Okay.
It's so insignificant a number that it's not really have any relevance. Mm-hmm. But, in the unlimited, eternal, anything and everything is possible.
Can I tell you why it's not possible?
Go ahead.
Because you're underlying a violation of free will, that their free will choice was to go ahead in the light paradigm, the high frequency paradigm. However, their free will was violated by receiving a shot that it's their vote for the low frequency one. Because they did it through whatever's, right?
Well, the reason that they maybe got their shot, maybe because there was a period of time, honestly, in the beginning-ish, where the data that you received could lead you to believe it is safe and effective.
No.
And you're not getting it because you're worried.
No,
you're just
I'm sorry, that doesn't
trying.
count. That doesn't count. The information's been there. We didn't get it, right? We didn't get it. The information's been there all along. Anybody, and even people, I've spoken to people who said, you know what? I believe in vaccinations, and I'm very afraid of this COVID thing. I don't want to catch it, but for some reason, I know I mustn't get this vaccine. They've said it. And I don't know why, but it's no way in the world am I going to get it. I don't care what happens to me. I'm not getting that vaccine.
Okay, well, you did write an article about what happens if you got the shot and you realize you messed up and you change your mind about it now. And there were some steps that you take. And I think that article's a good, it's excellent
That's
article.
Different, right?
That's different. That's
different.
After and you change your mind.
Right.
This I was talking about, there's the outside potential possibility in my mind that exists that not 100% of everyone who got the shot actually picked the light dark to continue for them. I was just trying to create an out, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
But let's just say 100%.
Do you see why I'm going to continue with that free will thing? The free will clause was the one that was used to split the human collective in 2011.
Okay.
That was the free will clause. The people who promote power over others, enslavement and suffering and pain and fear came up with the human collective and all the other collectives on this planet, which I call the Planetary Council. Is my words, and not called that.
Okay.
And they brought in the clause, if everybody on the planet, which was the plan, ascends to a higher frequency and awareness, you're violating free will of the people that don't want that. So that was
there's
accepted.
A nurse.
So that was accepted,
yes.
And it was implemented, and that's why we're having a split. And not the entire planet is rising in frequency.
So I'm going to tell you a for instance, and tell me if it applies.
But can I finish my...
Okay.
Yeah? Thank you. Let me finish. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So, because that free will clause has been the one that has been used for this split, if the dark side of this equation breaks and violates the free will of even one person on this planet, the whole thing crumbles and the entire human species ascends.
They're definitely not going to break that free will.
Exactly. So nobody received the jab against their wishes or desires or their free will choice in 2011. Nobody has received the jab that did not choose the dark paradigm to begin with.
Okay, so those are literal words that are literally specific, and the conditions that I'm going to suggest may be construed different. Let's just say you know a nurse, I know of a nurse, who did not give the injection. She put water in it instead. And other people knew that that nurse was doing that, and that's who they went to get their shot from. They didn't actually get a shot, and they knew they weren't getting a shot.
Exactly.
But it does follow they did get a shot.
A shot.
Some of the people who went there for that shot didn't know they weren't getting an actual shot, and they thought they were getting a shot. Some of them knew they weren't getting a shot, and that's specifically why they went there. Yep. So in that situation, the conscious choice trumps the unconscious choice? No. Did the unconscious ones that got saline, they went there because they were afraid, and they got that shot because they thought it was the actual shot, but it turned out not to be the shot.
Right. In that situation, their higher self sent them to that clinic and not to another one because they chose the higher frequency paradigm. That's
what I was saying from the beginning, is that it would appear that that person chose the shot, but they didn't.
No, they didn't.
And even though it looks like they got the shot, they didn't.
Correct.
So we can't say that they got the shot. And
they didn't get the shot. Yeah, period.
That's the point that I'm trying to make, is that the ones that got the saline shot didn't get the shot.
Exactly.
But if we were to say, my dad went and got the shot, we don't know whether he went to the saline shot or not. We don't really know what choice he actually made.
Exactly.
Even if he made that choice out of fear, his higher self choice was already made.
Yes.
So the point that I'm trying to make with the 99, we don't know that 100% of the people who got the shot chose the light-dark paradigm. They did. We know 100% of the people who got the actual shot chose light-dark.
Exactly.
Some of the people who went in and got shots didn't get the shot.
Correct.
But if they went for boosters and they went for second shots,
unfortunately,
then that's going to pretty much make it 100%, because there's not very likely chance they went to 3 nurses, doctors, CVSs, that all 3 of them were also only given the saline.
Correct.
The more, it's like Russian
roulette. And that's why this is pushed.
That's why there's more and more times.
Yeah, exactly. Because just to make sure that people who chose it really, really, really get it. But also because one of the things about the human physical body is that it's extremely resilient and is refusing to die, basically. And they need more of those people who are refusing to die, their physical bodies will refuse to die or get very, very sick. Those need more shots, and that's what people are getting now.
So if someone were to say, well, I'm going to trust my higher self choice from 2011, I'm going to go get the shot so I can keep my job, and I'm going to assume it's going to be saline, because I'm only going to get the one shot now. What do you say to that? You
walked or you drove to get a shot, man. And it's like, no, it's not going to work.
Don't do it?
No.
Don't do it.
No.
How about, okay, the next part of that statement, which was 100% of the people who went and got the shot, and we're going to say...
The actual shot, not the saline. Yeah.
Those ones picked light dark. Mm-hmm. The other assumption was those that didn't pick the light, but that's also not true.
Correct, it's not true.
Not true. Just because you didn't get the vax,
doesn't
mean
you
didn't get the... My favorite word. Just because you didn't get the cootie Kool-Aid doesn't mean you chose the light paradigm.
Correct. However, this is and it is something that I did look at a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. They may have. Okay? So, this is really bizarre because a lot of, white supremacists who are very, very, very dark workers, right? They're very low frequency, power over others people, chose not to get the vaccine.
Right? Cootie Kool-Aid, honey. Cootie Kool-Aid.
Oh, the cootie Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
they chose not to get the cootie Kool-Aid.
It's a more fun set of words.
Okay. And they obviously haven't chosen a light paradigm, right? They haven't at a conscious level. However, and here's the bit, when I looked at it, the human collective and the planet Earth and everything is going through a process. And this is just part of that process. Why do you need to dumb down your frequencies all the time? If you chose the dark paradigm, you need to get injected with something, you need to drink alcohol, you need to take drugs, you need to engage in low frequency dramas and engage in all that to be able to stay there. Because if you remove all those things, you immediately raise your frequency. Instantly, because you're naturally a high frequency being, most of the people on the planet. Obviously, there's certain exceptions. Now, for these really low frequency individuals, who I would call the extreme right, decided they weren't going to get the jabs or the cootie Kool-Aid, they're still choosing a dark paradigm right now. But what it feels like is as we go through the process of ascension on the planet, because they don't have those poisons in their body, they will ascend with the rest of us. Their expansion of awareness will happen, and their frequency will rise. That's how it feels to me. Now, I don't know until it happens. Will it happen? But that's how it feels if you don't get jabbed and if you don't take those drugs, right? I mean, yeah, some people can drown their frequency in alcohol and get covered in demons, and it won't happen for them, right? Crack addicts or whatever.
Their expansion of awareness will be interrupted by a gunfight.
Yeah.
Or a knife fight.
Exactly.
Or a crash into a bridge.
Right.
Or a
all
thousand
sorts of
different
things. And I know for a fact, this is another fact that I know that I have spoken about, that those individuals who very much want to recruit as many low frequency people that choose low frequency for their reality as possible, right, and are doing the whole cootie Kool-Aid thing around the planet and all these things, I know for a fact that they have other plans to grab those individuals with, right? So maybe get into gun battles with the government. So maybe
the Civil War, starvation, taking people's food.
Yeah. So, they're doing things to push that agenda forward. Now, right. I don't know if it's going to catch or not. I don't know if it's going to take. But there are other plans. We have 30 years left, So it's like, it's a process. Well, we have less than 30 years. We got probably 15 years now. Because we accelerated it tremendously.
Good, because I was looking at 30 years and I'm like, golly.
In 30 years, it's going to be settled.
Oh, sure.
Right? It's going to be completely settled. But, yeah, it's going to be settling before that. And at the moment, it's being implemented. So, yeah, there's going to be other things. But that's their thing. We don't need to be pulled into those realities at all. Right? So what do? We start getting together and planning what it looks like to live in a high frequency world. We get together and like today or tomorrow there's a swap place, people are going to bring swap meet nearby, we support those. And, it's like start getting and processing your fear is really important. The exercise that we did the other week, the work we did, and embodying that pure heart and allowing those higher frequency energies to be you. You are that anyways, but to express through you and then work from that space. That's what's gonna make you helped, supported. You will be helping and supporting others, right? So it's a two-way system kind of thing. The human collective and Gaia loves you again. I'll say that again. And your high frequency here is key. And you will be protected and loved and taken care of, but not in a passive way. You need to be proactive. Because you're an adult. You're not a child. Right? You're the one who...
Don't be passive. Be active. But some of the actions you can take may look passive from the outside, but their energy...
It's strong.
Mystical.
It's powerful.
And powerful doings.
Yeah.
Actually, very, very powerful. Because I was just thinking that, one of the responses is process your fear. One of the responses is process that righteous energy. And what happens when you do that? It's not like it doesn't have an effect on the material.
It does.
It has a dramatic effect.
It does have a dramatic effect. Yeah. But you need to follow your nudges, your intuitions, your knowing. If you ignore all of those things, you're screwed, right? Or if you say, oh, well, somebody told me to do this, and then it's a misinterpretation. It's a higher self misinterpretation. If you're still stuck in the victim-aggressor cycle, it's a misinterpretation through the victim-aggressor cycle.
Right. So you hear words. If you're in victim-aggressor, when you look in and hear those words, then those words, no matter how empowering they are, you only interpret them in another way to make yourself a victim.
Exactly. Right.
Oh, frustrating.
Yeah.
How do you get around that? How do you get out of that?
You learn about the victim-aggressor cycle. I've got tons of information in IneliaBenz.com. You go there, you educate yourself, and then you do the exercises and process that are on all the classes there. That's what you do. You step yourself away from the victim-aggressor, martyr, savior energies. You step away from those.
So if you do the exercise we have this week, I think it's the Embody the Pure Heart for an hour a day, right?
Yes. That was last week's.
Last week's?
But I think it's forever. Just do that every day for the rest of your life.
Okay.
Embody the Pure Heart for at least an hour.
We should pin that homework.
At least an hour a day.
This one is pinned forever do.
Yes.
I think that one of the things that's often thought about is what action should I be taking? And oftentimes the action I should be taking is inspired by righteousness or fear or inspired by a low frequency something.
Yeah.
So before you're taking action that's, significant in some way, sit in pure heart for 1 hour.
Yeah.
And when you
come out of
there and you come right out of that, when you just finish, look at the thing and see what action you might take.
Yeah.
Based on that state of being, not the triggered one, basically.
Right.
I think that's fairly decent advice.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that I found helps people is, so for example, you're listening to this podcast, so, you put some sort of value to our words and our energy, right? So if you're going to make a decision in your life, you could ask yourself, what would I be doing right now? What decision would I make, or how would I act in this situation if Larry and Inelia were here with me in this room?
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Right? If they were here looking at me as I make this decision, what decision would I make?
And how would I go about making this decision?
Exactly. Exactly.
First, I would process, right?
Right.
First, I would process if I have a righteous trigger or
if it's fear-based, it's never a good decision.
Fear-based trigger about why I'm making this
right
action. Then I would process it first.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would look at it from less judgmental space and from a high frequency space. Right.
Yeah.
Without a judgment now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good advice.
Yeah. And the other thing is that
ask a question. It's like, hey, what do you think? It's like, if we're sitting there, you could say, hey, Inelia, what do you think? They're going to give me $1,000 if I get the shot. What should I do? I really want $1,000. So you might say something like, oh, I think that you should probably do the reconnection with the spirit of money process, because I think there's more than one way to get $1,000.
That doesn't involve getting killed.
And it doesn't involve getting killed
sick.
to get it.
Yeah.
So, it seems like you hit a wall, but then there really isn't a wall. It's a made-up, imaginary wall. I was reading yesterday, and I can see, and I felt, and that was part of what was giving me a bit of a righteous trigger, honestly, was I could see and kind of feel what felt to me like manipulation techniques taken to a huge high level, So the entire country or entire state or province, Quebec and Ontario were two provinces, and they had a vaccine mandate in place, and they canceled it at the last minute because the consequences, well, whatever they said, who cares?
Yeah.
They canceled them at the last minute, but how many people did that manipulate into doing it? Even though they knew they were going to cancel it when they said it. Right? How many people did it anyway?
Right.
And now how do they feel? It kind of felt to me a little bit like the truth reveal, not because the truth will make you feel better, but because the truth's being revealed to make you feel worse.
Break your heart.
Break your heart. It kind of felt like an example of that happening. Because think about it. Think how many people felt they were up against the gun and went ahead and did it.
Right.
And it turned out they weren't.
Exactly. It's all that anyway. It's all smoke and mirrors. The whole thing is smoke and mirrors.
Right, but the consequence of what I'm trying to say is the consequence of the action and then the reveal made it worse than if they had kept it.
Right.
So it feels like a victory, but it was really another manipulation technique on frequency.
Yes.
And when you see that manipulation take on frequency, it only functioned as a frequency lower on those who responded in a low frequency response.
Exactly.
If you didn't get it and you say, go ahead, fire me, I don't care, guess what?
You didn't get
Relief.
fired.
You didn't get fired. But maybe you should have got fired. Who knows? We have so many orchestrations in our life. It's so hard to untangle all of the strings.
Exactly.
But
if you stay at a higher frequency level, if you embody your natural frequency,
you stay at a high frequency.
You will be guided and supported by the high frequency collective, human collective.
In the way that's going to support you and the reason you came here.
Exactly, yeah. In surprising ways. Really surprising ways.
And surprising ways. I remember there was a few surprises. I was looking, I can't specifically say them right now. It was like, you couldn't plan that.
I know, you couldn't.
You couldn't expect that to be the way that it falls, but this happened and then that happened, and it looked like it's not that great. And then at the end, it's like, oh my God, that's the best thing could have happened ever. Where'd that come from? I see it happen all the time.
Yeah. Before we complete, there's a couple of things I'd like to say.
Okay.
I'd like to thank Sean. You know who you are. Thank you for our first donation towards driving to the res. Very specific donation that was sent to us for the podcast itself, and I thought that was wonderful. Thank you, Sean. And also he sent the first donation that we received for the Spanish broadcasting channel. He doesn't speak Spanish and he hasn't watched it, but he thinks it's a marvelous thing that we're doing. So he sent us that I'm doing, which is like, I can only do it because people support, right? The Spanish team supports it and creates it. That's the only reason why I'm able to do it. And of course, Sean sending a fee, a donation,
a little bit of support.
Yeah, also pays for the channel, because I actually pay for the brand YouTube channel for us to be able to do live broadcasts, even though they don't have their bugs sorted out yet, and a lot of the times we have to go into YouTube. But we have been able to use it a few times, and with more freedom of speech, and that money goes directly to pay for that channel. So Sean, thank you. You paid for the Spanish channel for 3 months, I think.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice anyway to support the things that you want to see.
Exactly.
On the planet.
Yes. And I do that all the time.
I do it all the time too. I walk through, even if I'm walking through Walmart and I look over there and there's some organic, positive, delicious, high frequency, yummy. It's like,
get that.
How can I not get it? It's here for me specifically.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to mention before we say bye-bye is to let everybody know, maybe they haven't found out, that our friend Franco de Nicola passed away. In October, I think it was the 20th. And just to give a big thank you to Franco for all his work. And, just acknowledge that he was a bright light here on this planet. And
it's a tough planet on bright lights.
It is. He was tough. He made it really tough for himself, I have to say.
Well, it's because it's a tough planet for bright lights, honestly.
Yeah. That's true. That is very true.
That's just the fact of life.
Yeah.
It's a tough planet for bright lights, but not forever.
He was very, very bright light.
Yeah.
And his beautiful lady, Kimberly, continues with the work. She's also extremely bright light. And lots of hugs and love for both of them. And so I just wanted to acknowledge his passing and his life. Stuff.
Aww.
It is.
Deep breaths.
Yeah. Are you complete, honey?
It kind of like I suppose we can be complete in. It doesn't feel complete.
No, okay.
I thought so.
Okay.
There's something more. What is it? So, I met Franco when I met you.
Yeah. And
Franco was, to me, the masculine voice of the information that you were sharing. And your voice was... It was unquestionably more female to me. You were surrounded by empowered women. And you were doing work specifically, it felt empowered women oriented, with empowered women groups, specifically even no men allowed groups. So it was nice at the time to have information complementary to what you were sharing in a masculine fashion too, right? So easier for me to hear
language,
it.
Yeah, different language.
Not so much easier for me to hear, but I could hear it. And I could feel
I'd like to
complimented by it.
But also, the times that I did that work with women, I wasn't exclusively working with women. I was working with men and women. But I did join a couple of groups that only worked with women.
Right. Yeah. You didn't join a couple of groups that were only working with men, though.
Because then it would defy it, right? It would be one woman with a bunch
The point
of men.
I'm trying to get at, the point I'm trying to make is that I found Franco when I found you, and he was able to speak to me in man.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it was complimentary, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And with time, things diverged a bit, and you also expanded to include a bit of man in your voice, because you got a high-frequency man in your life.
You.
Exactly. You could interpret you into, I don't know, a language that men can understand, and I don't know, not just men, but you know what I'm talking about. Do you?
No, because I was talking to men and women all of my life, and I just joined a couple of groups that only spoke to women. I couldn't join groups that only spoke to men because I'm a woman.
You very rarely talk about Russian trucks stuck in the mud.
Correct.
Until I come around.
Yes.
Now you've actually said those words in the sequence.
Yes.
And you never ever even knew those words existed in the sequence. So that's what I'm talking about.
Yes, it's more like a language.
Yeah, more like a language. It's not that you didn't speak to them. Anyways, the point isn't that.
Franco spoke a language that men could understand easier.
Yes. And so it was hugely complimentary at the time. And it did diverge a little bit over time. And those divergences are, part of me changing and growing, and I imagine he as well, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're a bright light on the planet, it's a tough planet for you. And you need your tribe to support you.
Yeah.
And in some cases, your tribe does support you. In other cases, they make it even harder, I guess.
Yeah.
Nobody, I think, really recognizes that to the level that it's, and how it's important. But, it's also important that you, as the person, take responsibility too, right?
Yes,
but
absolutely.
That's part of the problem with being a bright light on the planet. So it's just not easy. So the circumstances, I wish they were different. I could see a path to get them different. Those weren't the path that was taken.
Right.
But it doesn't, oh, baby, really?
Jumped on your mic.
It doesn't diminish what he did.
Or his bright light.
In my eyes, he's always that bright light.
Yes. Yeah.
And I wish things had turned out different. But they didn't.
Correct.
So now we have the place that we are. We're where we are, which is still going to end at the same place in a new paradigm.
Yeah.
And, ooh, is that your chicken?
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Phew. So, back
After
where I was.
break.
Yeah. little rescue break. And actually it wasn't a rescue break. What it was a request from my puppy, our puppy, to go on a walk.
Yes.
He's like, you guys done enough talking. It's time for some walking.
Yeah.
He wasn't trying to kill a chicken.
Oh.
He was trying to play with a chicken. He didn't have a hold of his, vital parts. He had a hold of his not vital parts.
Oh my God.
The chicken was squawking, and he was walking.
Oh my God.
But it was all right. Chicken didn't get hurt. No
Okay,
feathers
good.
even. It's just a chew toy that makes squeaky noises.
Squeaky noises.
And it is like battery powered. It runs
Yes,
away fast.
Yeah.
Irresistible.
Right.
Irresistible. But I did tell him that's not his chew toy. That's my chew toy.
Okay. All right.
He gets it.
Okay, good.
So, love you, Franco. I hope to see you in the new paradigm. That would be my closing thing for the end. He's still a light. He's still a bright light. And he complimented so much. And he was so helpful in my process of, the bell going off, the alarm clock going off, say, hey, wake up, time to, be who you're supposed to be, not just run around. I'm not even going to say, I'll just say it. Not time to be running around filling boats of fish and drinking beer.
Yes.
It's time to do what you came here to do. Yeah. And he was instrumental in ringing that alarm bell, along with you, honey.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Franco.
Thank you, Franco.
We love you.
We love you. Now I feel complete.
Okay, good. Love you, honey.
Love you, honey.